because of our issue. There we go. Good morning, good afternoon. Today is October 14th, where I am. I think it would be for everyone here. Um, and we are in our Primo V Become an Expert series. And our topic today is search interfaces. So my name is Jenny Draeger. I am a training services consultant with Ex Libris. Sure, I'm where I want to be. This is our agenda for today. We're going to be spending quite a bit of time in talking about search interfaces, and these things in the search interfaces agenda, these are those menu items at the top, those links at the top of Primo. So that's what we're talking about here today. That's what all of these are focusing on. So when you go into Primo V, it's what appears here. And if you have more than what appears on the screen, it just extends out. And of course, I'm gonna show you you can change the order of these, no problem. But this is what we're focusing on, the functionality up here. PowerPoint, these search results, these are the things that pop up at the very top when suggestions that can pop up when you execute a search in Primo. So, and again, you don't have to turn all of these on. You might like some, you might not like others, and that's absolutely fine. Start small, start testing things out in a sand, or not even in, you could do stuff in your sandbox. You could do stuff with an alternate view and test things out before you roll it out to the public. My goal here is to just show you what the options are, and then you can make it work for your institution. And it surely does not hurt to look at other Primo Vs to see what other people have enabled um, in their environments. Okay, so our first topic is getting into browse searching. You can enable or disable the browse search. You can also choose which types of browse searches are available to your users. The options are author, title, series, subject, call number. The subject browse options are based on standard subject headings. We have a number of different types, including Library of Congress and National Library of Medicine. The call number types available include Library of Congress, Dewey, NLM, SUDOC, UDC, shelving control number, and even a generic call number field. Now, each section of this PowerPoint is gonna, or like each topic here is gonna have this section here for the steps. And the first step is always making sure you have the appropriate user roles to do this work. Now, most of the things I'm going to talk about just needs one user role, but a couple of them need a few more. So even though this is a little bit repetitive, there's a reason that we're repeating it because of the variation for some of these settings. Starting with, you always have to have make sure you have the user roles, enabling the views links in the menu tab. Remember, these settings that we're talking about for these searches that appear in the links menu at the top, they're enabled and disabled per view. So if you are at a institution that has more than one Primo based on your different libraries, the views can be local to that library. So if your main library has this turned on and you don't want it at the law library, that's fine if you have separate Primos. So I'm going to be, okay, so it's ensuring the labels for browse categories appear correctly in Primo. Learning, there's a link in the PowerPoint about learning more about the mark fields that are used to generate browse headings. So knowing exactly which mark tags are being used. And then I added this topic about the virtual browse shelf, which appears at the bottom of a full record view in Alma. So I kind of shoved that in here because it is tied to virtual or to browse search. Let's get back here. So for this, for the browse searches, you need to be discovery admin. That's the only role you need. And let's come over here into Alma. Get out of here. Come into Alma. And here we are. So what we're going to do is go into discovery. We're going to be spending a lot of time under discovery, display configuration, configure views. I'm using my test view that I set up, not the default one in my environment, and editing. So we'll be in here quite a bit. When you go to the links menu tab, what do you see here? You see that you can activate and deactivate different links. So these are the ones that will appear up there. You can see their code, you can see their label, you can see if they push out to an external URL, what it is. Then the description. And then you can also reorder these so that the order that they appear here, you see here they are in that same order. But if I want to move these up, move these down, you just use these little arrows to go up and down. So that's something you can continue to massage. You don't have to, like this library search, I really kind of like that a little higher, just because that's kind of where my muscle memory says, oh, I want a fresh search. Boom, I'll click on that. Now, if I come here, generally refreshing has been working. Remember I said how Primo can get a little cachy? There we go, that worked right away. So if you're ever working on these kinds of configurations, clear your cache. If things seem to be a little sticky, don't be afraid to clear your browser cache. Just kind of the nature of the beast. Remember, if you do send in any chats, please send them into all panelists so that I can see them and Lori can see them. I can't keep an eye on chat during the session because I'm going over my content. So just a reminder, please send them to all panelists. For anything that we can't answer during the session, I'll be making a Q&A, and that'll be posted to the dashboard page for the series. Okay. So let's get back here. So browse searches, here's my browse search. If I come in here and edit this, let's just take a peek. What happens in here? I can change the label. I can't change the code. Those are, locked down, but you could definitely change the label that appears. You can change the description for where you would hover. Now, if we come down here, what browse searches are available? So if I come in here, here's my browse search. What browse searches are available? Oh, I made this correction last night on my first round and I didn't uncorrect it. So I could show you. I'm going to show you by default, like if you enable these without changing anything, these both say subject and you say, well, how the heck do I know which subject it is? I'll show you that when I get back in here. But we have enabled the author, the title, subject 1 and subject 2. And then when you enable these, again, you could reorder them. You can change. Now, when you choose this subject heading, you choose from the drop down which subject heading you want. You also choose the sort by, okay, for each enabled search, and I can move these up and down. So let's go back to Primo and see how this is going to behave. We're going to stick with the author search, and I'm going to enter E-I-S-E-L-E-Y. Oops, E-I-S-E-L-E-Y. There we go. So we're doing an author search, and back in the configuration, we said author searches are sorting by title. So what comes back when I see my results, if I click on my results, they'll be sorted by title. Here is my author, Lauren Isley, 8 records. And I see here are my 8 results, and they are indeed in title order A, D, F, I, N-O-U. So that's where that setting is coming from. If you want them sorted a different way, just choose a different option from the dropdown. So the subject, like I said, if you first enable these two subjects, these are just going to say subject. They're not going to identify what type of subject, or maybe you want this written out. You don't want these acronyms. We love our acronyms, but maybe everyone doesn't know what they are. So where that gets set is in this labels menu. So under discovery, display configuration, labels. Now this is a giant table to change a lot of different labels. And you don't always want to scroll up, scroll down, scroll up, scroll down. So what I'm going to do is, instead of scrolling, I'm going to look for subject in here, and that'll shorten my list down to table names that begin with subject. And I want the browse search labels because I know subject is one of my searches. And I come in here and edit this. And if I go down to now, LC was subject.1 back in that table, and the NLM was subject.2. So you do need to pay attention to the code back when we enabled those browse searches. And then what I did was I just changed that. This, like I said, out of the box just said subject. So I could even say it, I could write it out. I don't know how this is going to fit on there. We'll find out, won't we? Space. I don't like two spaces. There we go. So if I save this, so I've changed the display label. I'm going to come back here to discovery. I'm going to freshen this up. Oh, so sometimes if you're like, you got to be aware of where this link takes you. So I'm going to go to library search. Let's go back to browse search. I'm going to do a refresh just in case. Refresh is your best bet. And like I said, if that doesn't work, then close the browser down, or close the tab down and just reopen it. Oh my gosh, it's taking its time. I'm going to close this just and reopen it. See if that's happier. There we go. Let's get our links up here. Let's look at browse search. Ta-da. So there we go. So I changed it instead of using the acronyms, and here they are. If I look, and I'm going to make sure that this link is in the, I have a link here I want to show you. Come on, open up. There we go. This is the link to the documentation, and I'll make sure this is in the PowerPoint, and I'll share it right here too. This is talking about the browse headings, and it can answer quite a few questions about which mark tag. So if you say, oh, which, where's that coming from? This is a great resource to have on hand. Okay. So I wanted to make sure you have that. It'll be in the PowerPoint, and I just put it in the chat for you as well. So let's go look at the browse shelf. So if I come in here, let me go back to my EISELEY. I hope I spelled that right. There we go. I wanted to bring your attention to in the full record view. Now we have this at the bottom. This is that virtual browse. And so this is another type of browse search, and what appears here is dependent on a setting. So this is just like looking at the shelf, like remember those days? um, so going back here into Alma, I would need to go under my view. So I'm going to go to discovery, display config, configure views, going into my view, edit, edit. And then going into this is set on the full record services tab. And so here's the browse shelf option. And I'm going to configure this. And there are two options here. There's browse bib headings or browse shelf listing. The browse bib headings option will, if you have that selected, what will show in the virtual browse is print and electronic materials. If you choose browse shelf listing, that only will show your physical holdings in that result. Okay, so that's where that comes in. I'm going to pause the recording again because, okay. So that is the virtual browse that you see at the bottom of a full record. Our next topic that we're going to go into is talking about newspaper search. So with newspaper search, this feature gives patrons a way to search from a dedicated index that contains a wide variety of newspaper collections. What this does, this improves the discovery of scholarly content in Primo V by excluding news sources from the main search while enabling easier newspaper content and collection access. Make sure that this chat is not popping up. I want that out of here. Sorry about that. There we go. There are some caveats. There we go. There are some caveats and things to think about before setting up newspaper search. So let me explain what will happen if you have this functionality turned on or off. In the CDI tab for an Alma collection, so you go into an electronic collection, there is the CDI tab. You'll see information about newspaper search. Is this collection included in the newspaper search? The possible answers here are yes, no, and yes, newspaper search only. If you do not wish to use newspaper search and you don't have it activated in your environment, you will retrieve results from no collections and yes collections with a general search. Newspaper results will be mixed with other CDI content. You will not have access to the CDI content that is marked yes, newspaper search only. You could also download the CDI collections list from the Knowledge Center to see the full list and filter on each type. If you do wish, oh, and another thing, if you don't activate the newspaper search, you still have it as a facet. So if newspaper results are mixed in with your results in Primo V, and you look at the resource types, you still have that newspaper where you could, include or exclude them from the results. So it's not completely out the window. But if you do use newspaper search and have it activated, that's in my environment, that's what we're going to see as I go through the demo. I'll have a dedicated newspaper search in my environment. So collections marked no will like this will be retrieved in the regular CDI search, but collections marked yes and yes paper news search only will only appear in the dedicated newspaper search. So you got to kind of weigh these and figure out what works best for your environment. So this will give you access to additional CDI content if you have newspaper search only collections activated, and will also give a dedicated area to search newspaper content. So again, you have to weigh There's pros and cons to each option. Just think about how your institution treats newspapers, how your users search, and what content you subscribe to might all help make your decision here for you. So the steps to configure, as always, is make sure you have the correct user role, enable the view in the links in the general tab, enable the view in the links menu, enable the central index and proxy setup, and then, I guess I should move this one up higher. Make sure you want to configure featured newspapers. Oh, no, the last one is determine if you want to configure featured newspapers so you can call some newspapers out. That would be very common searches for your users. Again, for this one, we just need Discovery Admin. So let's go into Alma and look at configuration and see what this looks like. So back here in Alma, I'm going to get back in here to my Discovery, Configure Views, back here in my View Config. On the General tab, there is which column is it in here? No, not reference entry. I know you could see it and I can't. Here we go. Display link to newspaper search. So you want to enable that. On the links menu, here's the newspaper search. You want to make sure it's active. Now here on this one, remember browse search had some configuration under it. This one is just changing the labels here. So I like to point that out. Now we need to go over to this, turn on newspaper search in the central index configuration. So under config, discovery, under this other menu, there I am looking on central index and proxy setup. You'll want to make sure that this box is checked, this newspaper search. Now, I mentioned that those featured newspapers. So I have a couple of featured newspapers. What I did was I featured a single newspaper, the New York Times, and what you do is you just add the ISSN. You can add the hyphen or leave it out. Either one works. And my second featured newspaper, I wanted to show you how this is labeled business. The code is business, the label's business, and I have more than one newspaper here. So I put the Financial Times and Wall Street Journal in here, and I put both of their ISBNs. And if I come in here and edit, let's say I wanted to add another one, I would just do that right here. So I added a featured newspaper. I just filled in this information. And that's how that got populated. As always, you want to make sure you're thinking about how those will appear in Primo. My newspaper search is down here. So it's labeled newspapers. Now, if I come in here, here's my featured newspapers, my New York Times, my business newspapers. So I grouped them here. And then just doing a search. You're doing that so everything we're getting here is about our newspaper articles, because the type of search it is. Searching all of our newspapers, not just the ones that I specifically highlighted. Okay, our next topic here is journal search. So the journal search allows users to see a list of journals by category. Journals are categorized by mapping their LCC numbers to a 3-level hierarchy adapted from Columbia's hierarchical interface to classification. You see that over here on the left. This replaces the A to Z journal feature that's no longer available in Primo V. Now, if you go to a number of customer websites, you will see that they still have a journal A to Z link up at the top of their Primo V, and those are going out to LibGuides. So they're not part of, excuse me, they're not a part of Primo V. They're pushing out to the LibGuides. And there's nothing wrong with that. People love those A to Z lists. Your users might love those A to Z lists, and that's how you want it. But I just want to show you how this feature works inside of Alma and Primo as well. Again, starting with the correct user role, make sure the journal search is enabled in the in your views links menu. Edit link in menu to display the category browse feature. So if you like that on the left, that that hierarchical list. You also need to make sure that there's the journal categories file job is set to run daily. I'll show you that. If you want to change the category labels, you can. It's possible. Remember, these categories, I always like to stress, these categories aren't something that we invented or wrote. It's an industry, it's accepted in the industry, an industry standard. And we have just enabled it. That's kind of what we do. We don't write these things. We say this is what is used in our industry, so let's include that in our functionality. And again, for the journal search, you just need the discovery admin again. So let me come back here. Coming back into Alma. I'm going to go back into my view. Display config, configure views. Edit. And on the links menu tab, we're up to journal search. And so you can see here, right here, it's enabled. I think, again, this is just the label again. But this is where the display category browse. This is what determines, come on. Crazy mouse hands here. This is showing these categories. It's up to 3 levels. 3 levels deep is the max there. I believe that's how that hierarchy was created. So that turns that on right there. I'm going to hit cancel because I didn't make any changes. Now, let me get out of config. I'm going to go under admin. I'm going to go to my monitor jobs, and I'm going to go to my schedule jobs. Now, I want to say also, if you are testing this out in a sandbox, not in your production environment, and you come into here, you're going to see a pop-up that says, note all scheduled jobs are currently disabled on the institution level. Automatic scheduling of jobs is unavailable on sandbox environments. So what that means is if I'm testing this out on a sandbox, I'm going to have to come in here and run this job manually. You cannot enable it in your sandbox. So if I limit my jobs down to discovery, it's going to be a much shorter list. And this is that creates journal categories file. So again, if you're in a sandbox, just click run now so that the job happens. If you are, so it should be enabled. It should be running every day as long as you're using this functionality. You can always force it. Even if you're testing this out in your production environment and you want to force it, you can also come in here and do the run now as well. I will put a link in to this hierarchy in the PowerPoint as well, so you can access that. Okay, once we've got all of that taken care of, I wanted to point out how you can alter the labels. So under discovery, display config labels, we were in this a little bit earlier. And again, this is a real long list. So I'm going to, if I search engineering, because I know that's one of the labels, just something agriculture, engineering, something that you know is in there, journal search, category labels. Much easier than scrolling down. And if I come in here to customize it, this gives you the ability to change these labels. You don't have to. Again, this is coming from the Columbia list and how they've broken these down. Okay. So that's it for journal searching. Next is database search. Database search allows user to search specifically for databases and also autocomplete suggestions for databases. Oops, hold on. Enabled in Alma. When this is configured, the database search page allows users to display a list of databases by clicking specific categories and subcategories up to 3 levels. Now, the difference here is this is not this. If you do this, this is something you're going to create. This is not something that comes out of in an industry standard. Now, you could copy what Columbia is doing, but this is create. I'm going to show you how this is created. You can use your own wording. You could copy what that other list does, whatever works best for you. But I'll show you. You have to have the correct user roles, determine and configure the category structure. So in order to set this up, you have to choose your mark field that's going to contain the categories. Setting up a controlled vocabulary registry so that those categories are consistent. There's no typos. This is kind of where the heavy lifting comes in for setting up this database search. Ensure that the database and collections that you want to be searchable are associated with a descriptive bib record that is not suppressed and has a collection level URL configured for linking to the database or collection. Could create a descriptive record and add categories to the mark field. Ensure that the create DB categories job is running, just like the journal one. There's one for database categories. And then you want to enable the database search in the links menu. You might consider adding local display and search fields to include new mark field data. So again, this one's a little more involved. For this one, you need the discovery admin plus either the catalog manager or catalog operator, and also the general system administrator. Out of here. And our friend Alma. So under config, resources, general, other settings, this is where we're going. There's, on this table, there's a line called DB categories field. When you first come in here, this is going to be blank. And you would choose a local field that you want to use. Doesn't matter which one. I chose 965. Then after you make that change, you want to hit save. Now, the next thing to think about is the category structure you want. Now, mine is not very in-depth. Let me go to my database search. I just created a few. I created a hierarchy for Canada, Toronto's, and then I have another one, newspapers. But I'll show you how these came about and why they're here. So back here, still under configuration, resources, cataloging, controlled vocabulary registry. So this I put in the 965 A and B. Now this, I could go up to 3 levels, so I could have put a C in here, or I could break these apart. What can be in the A, what can be in the B, what can be in the C. Those are, however you want to structure this is up to you. And if I come look at this, I gave it a name, which I just tried to make it explicitly clear by the mark tags and subfields I was using. I gave it a description that was, again, explicitly clear. Now here's the trick. The code is what is going to show. This is what's going to be in the marked tag in Alma, and it's what's going to show out in Primo. So at first, when I did this, I had like CAN and HIST and news and TOR. That didn't work. So I came back and wrote out the whole code because the code is what shows, not the description. So if I wanted to add a new code, maybe like US, United States, however I wanted to write it out. Add, because maybe I was breaking newspapers up into Canadian ones and United States ones, whatever you want to do. So after you add something here, you want to hit save. To make that change. Now, you've set up your controlled vocabulary. You have to now add it into the metadata configuration. So where we do that is still here in config resources cataloging, metadata configuration. We're going to dig a little deeper here. We're going now, I'm using Mark 21. So I'm going into there. And I need to find that 965. So instead of scrolling down, because this is a long list, 19 pages of information. So forget that. I'm just going to search my 965. My database categories, I've already done this. Oh, I want to edit it. And so what have I done here? I have changed the name. I said it's not mandatory. I've changed the name. I come into the subfields. And I've only set these, I did shove a, so in here, I was playing around with this a little bit. So under local subfield, like let me unassign controlled vocabulary. I was trying to show how this works. So how you do this is you would choose the subfield, the line here, assign controlled vocabulary, and you want to choose it from up here. And that's where it's going to go back to that controlled vocabulary list I just created. Okay. So this is actually adding it to the 965C. And then once you do this, there are a few clicks you have to do. You have to assign it. We need to save. And you have to make sure you click deploy. Because you've made a change to this table. Okay, so now that we've got it all set up, now my example that I have out here, I only have one. So if I click on Canada, it's showing. If I click on Toronto, because this newspaper came out of Toronto, it's showing. Or if I was searching here, I only have the one set up. So that's all I'm going to get here. But I'm going to show you how this is all set up. I can add a different one to this. Let me show you how this is done. Let me get out of here. I'm going to do this request, globe, and mail. So here's the globe and mail in my institution zone. When I go into the collection, you have to make sure the collection record is unsuppressed. When we talk about activating resources in Alma, a lot of times we suppress these because people aren't really looking for this collection. They're looking for the portfolios within it. But if you want to set this database search up, you need to unsuppress this metadata record for the collection does need to be able to show. On the additional tab, you're also going to need the link. So this was not in there. I had to add this. This is the link to to get to the Globe and Mail that we got from ProQuest. You may need to set up the proxy here at the collection level. Again, when we activate electronic resources, we don't often worry about the collection because it's suppressed, because we're doing all that at the service level for the portfolios. But if you set this up, be aware if you need the proxy enabled at the collection level. Now, okay, hit save. So if from this brief view, I can link to the descriptive record. And the first time you do this, this is going to be a community zone record, meaning you don't get to edit it. So what do you need to do? Now I've already brought this into my institution zone, and it's so I could add these tags. So let me just show you quickly. Oh, I don't want to, I want to drill down a little bit farther. There we go. So I come into here, I go to my descriptive record. Now, if I try to edit this, I hope this one hasn't been localized already. Okay, you see how it's view only. So what you need to do is copy the catalog. We also want to unsuppress it. We want to copy the catalog. This is just the descriptive record. We're still using the knowledge base of the community zone for everything else. Now what I can do that I've copied it, I've got some warnings, but we'll worry about those later. I'm going to add a field, 965. Oh, I don't want that in there. Darn it. Like. Come on. Where's my, there we go. So I could say Canada. Toronto. I could add another. Add field, 965. And I could do this as newspapers. Now remember, the beauty, I notice how these aren't in the right place, these tags. But when I hit save, one of the magical things Alma does is it sorts them and puts them in the right order, so they're down here. So let's save and release that record. So that controlled vocabulary, that's how that got populated. So that's what will appear on that structure on the left. Now, before we go take a look at this, I'm going to go back into admin, back into my scheduled jobs. You can see why this one's a little heavier. And why you might not see this on a lot of customer sites. And here's the creates journal categories file. Again, if you're testing this out in your sandbox, you're going to need to run this job manually. Or I can force it even though I'm working in my quote unquote production environment. Or if you're testing this out on a view in a production environment, you can do the same thing. Just come in here and run it. Remember, now I don't have a lot going on here, so this job runs extremely quickly, but you could always see if it's running. You can look at the history. Okay, let's come back here to Primo. I want to freshen this up just because I've added a new title. Let's go here to database search. And now, let's hope this works. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, is the other one not there yet? It might take another moment. I don't know if hold on. I didn't do all this in the other one. Edit collection. Additional. I don't have a link for this. Okay. It might just take a minute to get here. I don't have a link in here, but I think that would be let me just do something here. Let me just shove something in here. I know it's not right. If that's part of the magic here. Do a refresh. Database. Maybe it's just going to take a moment. Okay. So it's still here. And remember, when you click on these, you're going to see everything that's here under Canada. If I went down to Toronto, I'd have to do a little troubleshooting to figure out. And then I also put that second 965 in there that says newspapers. Now that's bothering me, but I'll figure it out later. Our next topic here is collection discovery. Now we saw our first week, SUNY Buffalo has a nice collection discovery that they're using in their live environment. Now, when we talk about collection discovery, these are not electronic collections. What these are collections that you can create and manage in your environment. They can be a mix of print, electronic, and digital. If you are an Alma Digital customer, you don't have to be an Alma Digital customer to create collections, though. You can see in a collection, the ones that I have in my environment are very flat. It's just a collection and then titles. But Alma does allow you to have collections and sub-collections and sub-collections. So it could be hierarchical. You can have a sub-collection and titles at the same level. So really you can design this to be whatever you want it to be. To work with collections, have to have the user roles. We go to manage collections to determine and configure the collections for discovery. Enable collection discovery in the views general tab. So again, this is enabled in a particular view. Enable the link to collection discovery in the views links menu tab. Now this one you need a few user roles. You need the discovery admin, collection inventory operator. You might need collection inventory operator extended to delete. Remember, operator allows you to add and edit. Delete or extended is only the delete option, so you need both. And then you may need digital inventory operator. So let's go over to Alma and take a look. So under resources, manage inventory, manage collections. Now I've got more collections here that are appearing in my view. I'm going to go in here into digital books fiction, and these are actually digitized images. They're not, they're digitized resources. They are representations. They're not, this is just how this one was set up, but they don't have to be Alma digital kind of things. But what do I see here? On my general tab, I've given it a name, the library, record format. Now this is where you could have sub-collections. So maybe this title list I wanted to break up by, where the author was from or where the novel took place. But so you can have sub-collections and titles, or you could have only sub-collections and then you have titles under the sub-collections. Very flexible, however you want to create the hierarchy of your collections. To create a new collection, you would just do this add top level collection. Give it names. The library. Save. There it is at the bottom. And I could get into add a sub collection. Maybe quilt different names, however, however you want to break it up. If you're going to do this, I always like starting with a blank wall and some sticky notes. So let's go take a look at what these collections look like out here in Primo. Here's my collection discovery. Here's that digital books fiction. And here they all are. This did not have subcategories. Now these are indeed files. If I come in here and look at this, see it's a digital version. But this has also been, you'll see this has been deduped or Ferberized. Which one is it? One result. Now I'm getting it confused. We're going to talk about that later in this series. But you can see here's that digital version, but it's also linking back here to physical items. You come here. It was SUNY Buffalo that had this. And I didn't search a bunch of different people. I just remember that they had these collection spotlights. And so they've got a number of different pieces of their collection. And again, these were like collections and then materials in them. They didn't have the hierarchy either, but they're just bringing out particular, and there's not a wrong answer in how they're organized. They're just highlighting materials in their collections. So a good example of that. Also, if you look, I want to point this out to you too. If you're looking at something in your collection and say, where in the heck is that? If you go down here, you're going to see the collection path down here. So no mystery as to where this resource is in your collection. This is helpful for you. Now, if you look, they have set up, this is called the collection lobby here, and you can see they've set up some great images. Now, in my environment, I haven't done that, but these images are loaded at the collection level into the lobby. So these little thumbnails come in. Right here. It looks nicer to have those stylized, right for the topic. A little more attention grabbing than mine. If we look at my lobby, nope, collection. I just have these generic ones here. Those are the cover art from the items within, but these could use a little jazzing up. Okay, our next topic, we're getting through our topics here. Talking about tagging. Get past this. There we go. So tagging. We saw tagging, I think, in our first or second week. So you can have tags display up here in your menu. How tags work is if a user is logged into Primo V and looking at a full record, I'm a searcher, I can enter a tag name here. And then what you could do in Alma, looking at this menu, you could see what tags have been put in by other users. So anyone can see this because this is in Primo. Now, as a staff member, you can manage these tags. I can add my own tag in a full record. If I have added the tag, remember Primo has to know who I am. So I have to be logged in order to use this functionality. And if I have added a tag, I will see this little red X because I can take it away. If someone else added the tag, I see the tags, but I cannot take them away. I don't control another searcher. And this is as a searcher. I don't control someone else's tags. I need to have the correct user role. I need to enable or disable tagging in the links menu. Now I'm going to show you how to manage tags as a staff member. For this one, we only need Discovery Admin. So here are my tags. Here are the tags that have been added. This is a little ghost one I got to figure out why that's showing. Because you'll see when I go in, it's not there. So I think we have a lot of cooks in this kitchen, in this Alma kitchen here. So I think there's some lingering stuff in here. So what do we need to do? Get out of config, discovery, configure views, edit my view. Here's the tag option. Again, if you edit this, it's just the label and description. This is what you would hover over as you hover over. Now managing them is under discovery, manage tags. So what do you see? You can see the tags that other people have created in your environment. You can see how many records are attached to the tags. And you have the power to delete. So you're not managing what's in the tags. You don't even see the list from here. You'd need to go to Primo to see the 6 records that have field guide added. But you can see the number of items that have been tagged and what the tags that have been in here. So if I come in here to field guide, and I know I've added a bunch of these with my login. So if I come in here into the record, here's that tagging. Okay, I didn't add this one because there's no little red X there. So someone else did it. I could add my own. And I'm only seeing that. Oh, I'm not even signed in. Wonder how long that lasts. Let's try this. Or is that going to prompt me? Yep. That's prompting me before it allows me. So it shows the option, even though I'm not logged in, but it forces me to log in before I do it. Jenny. Okay, so that's tagging. Now we're going to talk about what happens. These are the suggestions that can come up at the top of a results list, topic overview, and resource recommender. I liked how USF is doing this, so let me come here and go to University of South Florida. So I put in a topic, and here is this about that topic. So what is happening? This is coming from a reference collection. We need to make sure that these reference collections are enabled. It could be Encyclopedia Britannica, Credo, Gale, Virtual Reference Library, World Book, Wikipedia. In the documentation, there's a list of them. So if you, and then Primo and Alma use those reference collections to populate these. So in my environment, I know Wikipedia is free. Now I don't have it activated yet. What I did was from the community zone, I clicked brought it in here, and I still need to finish the steps. So bring it in here. And then under the discovery, configure views, go into my view, and highlight reference entry on top. That's what this is. That will enable that in your environment. Our last topic is resource. Oh, here's some of those examples. So for this one, discovery admin, CDI inventory, because we're talking about bringing that resource in, electronic inventory operator manager extended, so you can activate the resource, and repository manager. Okay, the last one is resource recommender. What this looks like is if you do a search out in Primo V, Primo can suggest databases, can suggest websites, library information. So you can even do something like that. If someone puts in library hours, it can pop up right here. Because a lot of people might consider your search page your front page. You can also suggest staff based on their topic specialties. A library guide, like a LibGuide here, that you've created. So all we have to do is make sure you have the correct user role and then configure the resources that you want to recommend. We're going to see a whole list of different types of resources. So again, for this, you just need discovery admin. Okay, back here. Discovery. Right here, under other. Resource recommender config. So this is where you can have databases, the library guide, website, person, custom ones, library information. This is like the hours. So enable which ones you want. If I go look at these, I created a couple. I created one for PubMed Central. So you would add a resource. You can also import. So what's nice about this is if you don't have to build this one from scratch. There is a function here to import this. Now let's go take a look. And in the documentation, there's a link to um, what that Excel file needs to look like. And it's going to have this kind of information. So what happened is when I add resource from electronic collections, I just chose PubMed Central. And when I did that, this and this got filled in. Now I edited the name, but I couldn't change the database key. That's hard coded in here because I linked to my electronic collections. And then these tags. So these are the tags. So, and you'll see National Institute of Health, PubMed, medical, biotechnology, medicine, life science, NIH, biomedical. So if someone searches any one of these, they're going to get this resource recommended to them. Now, you'll notice there are semicolons between each one. And when I entered these, I left spaces in there and Alma cleaned it up for me and took out those spaces. Now, there are spaces between, like, here's National Institute of Health, and there's also a space between life and science. What this means is I would have to search National Institute of Health or life science to get this recommendation. If I search life or just science, I'm not going to get it. So let's get out of here. Let's get back up here. Scroll up. Oh, I don't want this. I want to do a library search. And let's say biotechnology. There we go. So there's my suggested database popping up on the top. I could have more than one. If I also have like a subject librarian, remember, you can have more than one recommended resource pop up here. And then my results come down here. If I just do life, I'm not going to get it. If I just do science, I'm not going to get it. But life science, I will. And as I mentioned, this can be populated via an import. Now, make sure you have that link to the documentation. So there are some Knowledge Center resources. Some links to documentation. Remember, all of our doc is, I always show it. All of our documentation is indexed in Google, so you can always type, Alma or Primo V, whatever, resource recommender. And remember also, if you're looking at our documentation for Primo versus Primo V, you need to be aware of that. And there at the top, there's a link. If you're in Primo, it'll say, if you're working with Primo V, click here, boom, click that. So just be aware if you're looking at any Primo documentation that you're looking at the Primo V doc. Because you don't have the Primo back office and you're You should be happy you don't. Primo V is a lot easier to manage. I've seen a bunch of questions come in. Lori, is there anything we need to go back and address?
There are a couple questions that I haven't gotten to in the chat yet.
Okay.
One is, can you restrict the ability to tag in Primo to certain user types only, like faculty or library staff?
No. Nope. And I have not checked the idea exchange for that. So my suggestion would be check the, go to the idea exchange. If you have not been there yet, I do like to show this off too. And here's the thing. If you want this, the key to this is like any enhancement, you have to have a good business case as to why. Not just because I want it, but product managers, development, they're looking at these suggestions. Actually, I'd probably try that under Primo. But just because you want it isn't, give a good business case. Capitals, management, consortium level, delete, that one's completed. So I would look at these and see what's in here. And if there's something that you like, you can always make a comment on it because that'll help. You can vote on it if you like. You only get so many votes per institution, so be judicious with those. But you could see some things have come in and have been improved. Take a look at those. And if you write something, just make sure the good business case. Why?
Another question was, do you have any examples of customers that have a nice database search for journal categories in their Primo so that they could show it to their staff?
The short answer is no. The short answer is no. Journal search, is that what you want? The journal one?
Journal and database.
And data. Well, journal, remember, a lot of the journals you're going to see out there are going to be that A to Z list. You know what? Let me see. What I'll do is I'm going to check. I can't promise anything. I'm going to check support. I'm going to check in the cases. So journal search. I'll see if I can find database search. You saw how it's a little heavy administratively. If I can find some, I'll add them. Like I'll limit myself to today to do this homework so that I can have the Q&As to you by tomorrow. I'm gonna see what I can find. Okay, I'm gonna give it the old college try, and if I can't, this is my suggestion to you. Look, or anyway, ask on the listserv. Ask on the listserv and see if anyone says, "Oh yeah, we've done it." Because a lot of those journal searches, when you look at customer sites, they will be the A to Z that are just pushing out to, like this. USF is, they're pushing it out to LibGuides, which is fine. It's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong. So here's find a journal. Oh, do they have it on? Oh, they do have it on. Okay. So USF has the journal, and let's say, I know they have a lot of medical stuff there. They do some good work down there. Moffitt, I think Moffitt's the name. So there we go. So USF does have the journal search enabled, and they have the A to Z. So I'd like to see that. They have A to Z databases, but they don't have the database search. I'm going to see if I can find that. But you'll see that find a journal, it's a lot less cumbersome. It's really just enabling it and making sure the job is running. And then what's nice about this, you click here and then I want to get a little further here. This is where I'm going to be. There's no quilting in here. That's a shame. Yeah, the Primo listserv would be your best get. Like I said, I'm gonna look and see if I can find something um in the support cases. If I see people asking about database search, but the Primo listserv is going to be your best bet. Thanks for that suggestion. I saw a question just come in. Any way to add an advanced search to newspaper search? Not right now, and that would be, again, something for the idea exchange. Whatever you're looking for. Oh, also, UAH. Oh, UA Houston, or Huntsville. This is Huntsville, right? I think I used you. Yeah, I was using you the other day. Thanks for that suggestion here. So here's the journal search. Right here. Not that one's not hard to set up. So this is University of Alabama, Huntsville. Huntsville. A good couple of examples of that. Do you have a quilting collection? Ooh, they got their little chat window. I like that too. I like your colors. Ooh, I like these colors. Someone asked a question. Any suggestions for an A to Z list if you don't have LibGuides? It would be just it's outside of Alma, so I can't really speak to that. I don't know. Sorry. Maybe ask that on the listserv as well, on the Alma listserv or Primo listserv. I see some good questions. I'm going to grab them all before we close. And I'm going to work on that Q&A document and my homework. Control all, control copy. There we go. So this session went a little longer. I expect they will when our topics get a little more in-depth than just the intros. Next week, branding, CSS, and HTML. Good times. Good times there. Make sure I got that copy. I want to make sure I don't lose this Q&A so I can. We have a little bit from our friend, our bot in there, so I'll have to clear that out. So I'm gonna work on tidying up a few screenshots in the PowerPoint and these Q&A docs. Everything should be posted by tomorrow. I'm gonna do the PowerPoint first though, because I know there's a few things in there. But the Q&As you should have by tomorrow. Anything else for us? Where are the Q&A docs posted? So what I do is I take the questions that came in from both sessions, and they are on the dashboard for the series. And I take the questions. I'm going to put this chat in here. Come on. There we go. I think I put it in there twice. Did I put it in there twice? Let's try this again. Ignore that first one. I think it's a bunch of gobbledygook. There we go. The second one. There we go. So in here, you'll see here's the Q&A docs. So I just take the questions from both sessions and I format them down. And they're here. Is this one not working? Someone said this one has issues. Ooh. Uh-oh, I shared the wrong thing. Thank you. Let me fix that one. I have the real one. Q. I need to watch my naming a little more. Week 1. Correct. Thank you very much. I'll fix that one. Okay. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Lori, for your help too. Bye bye.